The Texas Bowl gives us two teams with the same records, but are going in opposite directions. We've got Baylor taking on LSU. Baylor winning their final 6 games after a rough 2-4 start. LSU, meanwhile, starting 6-1, rising as high to number 8 in the country, but going just 2-3 down the stretch, including a 3-game losing streak before beating Vanderbilt and Oklahoma to finish out the year. Again, two teams with the same records, two very talented teams, but you can't help but wonder if the way these teams are trending will affect them in this Texas Bowl. We're going to give you that answer and more and our official prediction right now here on the Gridiron Expert. So welcome back, guys. We're so glad you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of those expert picks, home to that holiday special, giving you all of our bowl game spread picks and all of our NFL spread picks for the rest of the year. Yes, that's all the way through the Super Bowl in February from one of the lowest prices in the country. And again, some of the best picks in the country for 6 years running. So go check it out. The link for that down in the description below. We'd love for you to subscribe. We'd love for you to join our team and become a member of our GE Nation today. So let's take a look at this, guys. First off, you got the record comparison that we just went through, but you also got the Dave Aranda connection. We'll get that out of the way first. Dave Aranda, of course, the former defensive coordinator at LSU, was the defensive coordinator for the Tigers when they won that national title back in 2019 with Joe Burrow. Now the head coach of the Baylor Bears, as he has been for the last few years. And this was a big year for him. One after that 2-4 start, people thought he's done. He's out of Waco. They're going to fire him. And then he somehow, flipped the switch, and they won 6 straight games. The Bears are getting hot, could win 9 games if they win this bowl game. And he's definitely going to be back in Waco next year, no doubt about it. So interesting connection there with the Dave Aranda connection. That'll be fun to watch. But we'll start on offense. We'll start with the Bears. We'll start with what they have done and what changed for them over the last half of the season. Well, this is a team that has scored at least 37 points in 5 of their final 6 games. 5 of the final 6 games, they scored at least 37 points. They averaged over 434 yards per game on the year, over 246 through the air, over 188 on the ground. That balanced offense for Baylor is what is helping them so much in this final half of the season. They can beat you just as easily through the air as they can beat you on the ground and vice versa. Sawyer Robertson has done a phenomenal job just stepping in at quarterback and delivering. Called upon, and he has answered. I mean, he's been unbelievable. Over 2,600 yards, 26 touchdowns, just 7 interceptions. Also has a little over 200 rushing yards and a handful of touchdowns there as well. He has 3 300-yard passing games. That includes in the season finale against Kansas, where he threw for 310 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. So he's taking great care of the ball. He's got a great arm. He has kind of been the spark that this Baylor offense has needed. I know he's been the starter for a very, very long time now, but his play is what has propelled Baylor to this spot right now. You look at the running backs as well. Bryson Washington, over 1,000 rushing yards on the year, 12 rushing touchdowns as well. 7 players that have at least 100 reception yards on the year. This is a Baylor team that has learned to get back to that balanced offense that we've been so prone to them seeing, or so prone to us seeing, but also a Baylor offense that's taken such great care of the football. Only 13 turnovers on the year. Robertson takes care of the ball. They don't fumble the ball very often. So they're a balanced offense. They protect the football well. The offensive line does a great job, only giving up 18 sacks on the year. This Baylor team has been absolutely phenomenal all year long, but particularly in the last 6-7 games. LSU, on the other hand, you take a look at them. They're depleted coming into this game. Baylor's pretty much at full strength on both sides of the ball. You really didn't see many transfers or opt-outs or things like that for the Bears coming into this game. LSU, you can't say the same. This LSU team is averaging over 29 points per game, over 430 yards per game, but they will be down a lot on the offensive line. Both of their starting tackles will be out on the offensive line. They will be down their number 1 wide receiver in Kyron Lacey, who had over 800 reception yards on the year. They'll be down their number 3 pass catcher and tight end Mason Taylor. They'll be down their number 4 pass catcher and wide receiver CJ Daniels, who's already committed to Miami. They do have their quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. That's a huge plus. Nussmeier announcing his intentions to return to Baton Rouge next year, threw for over 3,700 yards and 26 touchdowns this year, but he's got to find some help. You're down 3 of your top 4 pass catchers already coming into this game. Your running back core seems to be relatively intact, but as you know, LSU hasn't been able to run the ball very well at all this season, averaging just 117 rushing yards per game. That ranks 108th in the nation. So the question now is, number one, does Garrett Nussmeier have enough time to throw the ball with a couple of offensive line starters, good offensive line starters, choosing not to play in this game? Number two, does LSU find a way to have that next man up mentality? Does these wide receivers that are waiting in the wings, can they come up and make the plays offensively for the Tigers? And number three, even if they do, they've got great protection, the pass catchers are doing well. Can Garrett Nussmeier take care of the football? Because the reason LSU went through that horrendous 3-game losing stretch, the reason they struggled midway through the season was because of turnovers. They had 3 turnovers against Texas A&M, 3 turnovers against Alabama, and another turnover against Florida. They lost all 3 of those games. They lost the turnover battles in all 3 of those games. He's got to take better job of the football. He's got to protect it better. I don't know if he'll be able to do that if he's constantly under duress and you've got a core of inexperienced pass catchers that you're working with. You take a look at the Baylor defense. Dave Aranda is a defensive-minded guy. Typically, you'd expect this Baylor team to be pretty strong defensively. If you're a Baylor fan, you know that hasn't always been the case. And this year hasn't really been the case either. They're just kind of mediocre. 83rd nationally in total defense, giving up over 382 yards per game. That's 227 through the air, but a little over 155 on the ground. And if I'm Baylor, if I'm Dave Aranda, I am preaching to my team, do not let this be the game that LSU all of a sudden finds a running game, right? They haven't been able to run the ball all year long. They have the 108th rushing attack in the country. Your rushing defense isn't great. You're giving up over 155. Don't let this be the game where LSU finally finds themselves, finally is able to run for over 100 yards, 150 yards. Don't let this be it. Bottle up the run. Don't allow LSU to make those plays. Force Garrett Nussmeier with a beat-up offensive line or a depleted offensive line and a depleted pass-catching core. Force him to do everything by himself and win this game. Make sure he has to really earn that Texas Bowl MVP if LSU does, in fact, win this game. You take a look at Baylor's defense a little bit more. They're giving up over 25 points per game. They allowed over 28 points in 4 of their final 6. So 28 points or more in 4 of their final 6 games. They do have 20 takeaways, 14 of those being interceptions. That's the biggest key once again. Stop the run, mistakes off of Nussmeier. Stop the run, pressure, mistakes off of Nussmeier. That's what you do. If you follow that to a T, you're going to win this game. And I feel very confident about that, especially since their defense is relatively at full strength. LSU, on the other hand, once again, like their offense, not really at full strength. Tons of opt-outs there. The biggest, though, going to be their safety, Sage Ryan. He's by far the biggest. He's already committed to Ole Miss. They're giving up over 205 passing yards per game, a little over 146 on the ground, and just slightly under 24 points per game is all they're giving up. Kind of similar to Baylor. Kind of similar to what we just said with Baylor. LSU's key in this game is going to be stopping the run. Robertson has been great at quarterback for the Bears, no doubt about that. But we just mentioned Baylor's averaging over 188 rushing yards per game. They've got a 1,000-yard rusher at their disposal. They are very, very balanced and would love nothing more than to control the tempo, control the line of scrimmage, and just ground and pound, run it right down your throat. Thing is, the Bears could do that because LSU's defense and their 3-game losing streak, again, to Texas A&M, Alabama, and Florida, they were torched on the ground in all 3 of those games. Obliterated. They allowed 242 rushing yards to Texas A&M. They allowed 311 rushing yards to Alabama. Yes, that's right. Over 300 rushing yards to Alabama and 113 rushing yards to Florida. That one, not nearly as bad, but again, another turnover on top of that didn't help them. You've got to stop the run, and you've got to find a way, if you do that, to force Robertson into mistakes. He does only have 7 interceptions on the year. This LSU secondary has only forced 5 interceptions on the year. They haven't done a great job of pressuring the quarterback. They haven't done a great job of forcing those quarterbacks into mistakes. They've got to find a way to do that now, especially if you do find a way to make Baylor one-dimensional. That's easier said than done. So what's going to happen, guys? The Texas Bowl. This is a fun one. New Year's Eve. Kind of a great appetizer before that playoff game between Penn State and Boise State. This also, to me, has the makings of a motivation game, right? We talk about that all the time in bowl season. Which team's more motivated? Which team wants it more? And this one, there is clear motivation. Baylor, to me, is by far the more motivated team. They are playing great football right now. They're hot, 6 straight wins to close out the year. It means a lot to them after the last couple of years they've kind of struggled a little bit under Dave Aranda. They seem to be playing as a cohesive unit. Meanwhile, you've got LSU over here. 8-4 is very disappointing for them, especially in a year where many thought they could make the college football playoff. Brian Kelly under a lot of heat already. Now you've got players opting out and transferring out. This LSU team does not feel like a cohesive unit. Baylor's got the motivation, LSU doesn't. Baylor wants this game more, LSU doesn't. Baylor's got a more balanced offense than LSU, and I believe their defense has just enough to slow down this Garrett Nussmeier-led passing attack, especially with the depleted offensive line and pass-catching core. Give me Dave Aranda against his former team to beat LSU. Baylor clinches a 9-win season. A massive, massive turnaround considering the start they had to this year, considering the season they had last year. So all the credit in the world to Dave Aranda and the Baylor Bears for what they have done in the span of 1 year. They win this Texas Bowl. They clinch a 9-win season while LSU and Brian Kelly will be facing a lot of heat heading in to 2025. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com. Home to those expert picks, home to that holiday special. Do not miss out on that. Some of the best picks in the country, one of the lowest prices in the country. We're doing great in the bold picks. We're fresh off an undefeated week in the NFL. We want you to take advantage of those picks. Win big with us today. Join our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.